Team Wireless's results and what we've seen. One thing to take note of, I think a lot of people are like, oh, right, results. We're going to see dollar values now. This is great. I want to see what they're earning. But there's so much more to it in terms of this system because of the importance of getting your teams engaged. And, when you see field engagement, the results are just going to come through it. So the first thing I want to show here is the engagement in terms of how much has been attempted, how many people have been reached, what are we leaving behind in terms of not attempting. And so what you can see here on the page is a graph kind of reflecting that. For the most part, especially in the last few months, team has been awesome at getting usually at least 90% of their accounts attempted. They are on it right from the beginning of the month. Usually by the 10th, they've got the majority of their list dealt with so that they can start following up. And that really is where the results come from, getting a solid workflow, setting those expectations so that the field has no question as to what they need to be doing. They really know it. They live and breathe it. And, Dan and I were talking earlier today. We did see a bit of a dip at the start of this year in terms of engagement. And we've kind of revamped a bit more coaching to get people back on board, to make sure that they're aligned and they understand what's expected of them. So that is what this graph represents. The next one is the actual ROI results from team. And I'm going to pass it over to Dan to speak to this a little more.
Yeah, no, thanks, Sam. So when I look at this, a couple things that come to my mind is, so number one, and first thing comes to mind is we are getting the return that we wanted to get from Statflo. But I also look at this and say, because we have this data and we're still only a few months in and learning from it, I know that we can get better. So that's probably the most exciting part about looking at this. When I see some of the ups and downs, so this is showing our gross profit return on the investment that we're making into Statflo, specifically from guests that are in a list within the first 30 days. So, again, data's powerful, right? So when I look at this, a couple things come to mind is the strength of the list, right? Some lists are better than others in terms of generating gross profit. So again, back to the engagement at my level and the leadership level is really being engaged at creating the right list. Certainly there's some seasonality built into this. The Verizon promos will drive some of that success on what that return looks like. And then more importantly is the tools that I mentioned earlier. A lot of this success comes directly from our execution and in some cases our poor execution. So that's why we're having the monthly calls with the district managers when we start seeing some of those trends to, one, make sure that we got the right list. They understand why we're doing it. Talk about some of the positioning statements when we do get in contact with the guest and just make sure that they're managing the right behaviors from the front line. So, I think it's like everything in our business. If you're using the tools that you have, and now we actually have the tools, which is a cover at the beginning we really didn't have before. If you're making quality calls and text, if the managers are empowered with the data to be able to pat someone on the back or start coaching them when the behaviors are getting bad, then these results will follow. So I truly believe we have the data we need to keep being successful. And that's why I'm a really happy customer of Statflo.